Story 1. The pure joy of summer vacations stretched endlessly ahead. 3 whole months of nothing but swimming, bike rides, and staying out until my mom yelled it was time for dinner. Story 2. When I was younger, my mobile phone was just a tool to help me stay connected with people. Now, it is the window through which most of life unfolds. Story 3. Endless energy. I could ride my bike forever and never feel tired, or break into a run wherever I was going. I never remember feeling tired or even out of breath. Story 4. I miss my family. When I was a child, we were always together. We played, had fun, and it was a wonderful time. Story 5. This may not be the case for everyone's childhood, but I miss how easy it was to have hope. These days, hope is in short supply. Story 6. I am 72 years old and male. All my family and friends have passed away. Some were older and some younger. No one remembers those times but me. Story 7. My metabolism has changed. I used to eat an entire pizza at midnight and wake up feeling fantastic. Now, I eat a slice of bread after 7 p.m., and my body reacts as if I've committed a serious offense. Story 8. The sense of almost limitless time stretches out in front of me. It is much harder to feel that way at 53. Story 9. Just the freedom in life. I miss the years when I worked full-time for a good salary, but still lived at home with barely any bills to pay, and money to spend on things I wanted or spontaneous trips with my friends or music festivals. I wouldn't want to live back at home now, but I took those years for granted and wish I had saved more money for the future. Story 10. $200 rent. Making games and music until 6 a.m. It never mattered because I worked at a pizza shop with flexible hours. I would close the register at midnight and then go to the gym until 2. Nothing about time mattered. I could do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted, and there were no repercussions. Story 11. Being able to get out of bed in the morning without it being a multi-step process due to aches and pains. Story 12. Not being in pain. I have worked hard for most of my life, and now my body feels uncomfortable every minute of the day. Story 13. During my prime years, around 14 to 18 years old, I remember being the crush of everyone in my village, school, and church. I'm not exaggerating, everyone. Story 14. Time and freedom. If I wanted to do something, I could just do it. If I wanted to spend an entire weekend at a friend's house gaming, I could. Story 15. My younger years were completely affected by bipolar depression. I am much better now that I have the appropriate medication and psychiatrist. Story 16. My body. I'm as heavy now as I thought I was then, but I am comfortable with myself finally. I wish I had appreciated what I had while I still had it. I wasted so much time hating myself for no good reason. Story 17. Life could become anything. The future is truly limitless. I still enjoy life, but it doesn't feel as if anything could happen. Story 18. No aches and pains. I'm super active and hardly go through a day without something hurting. Oh yes, and better knees. Story 19. Playing brings ease in making friends, a sense of being cared for, and endless possibilities. Story 20. I used to worry about where to go on Saturday night. Now I worry about paying my tax bill and my blood pressure. Story 21. I'm 40 now, burnt out and bitter. I'm saving up for a sabbatical, but ultimately I miss having more optimism about life in terms of the idea that hard work, continuous education, and seeking new opportunities will yield rewards. I'm not even talking about financial rewards here, just that hard work would eventually lead me to a workplace that respects its workers, values my expertise, runs relatively smoothly, and allows for work-life balance while paying reasonably. That's a joke, and now my optimism in that area is well into the negatives. The world used to feel like my oyster. Now it feels like something to get through with zero energy and poor mental health while trying to find brief glimmers of joy before I die alone and lonely. Story 22. You can make mistakes and still be fine. You have time ahead of you. However, you should not make any mistakes, as you do not have much time to fix them. Story 23. I miss being unaware of the realities of life and the world in general. I miss my biggest problem being whether or not a boy liked me. I miss feeling like death only happened to other people. I miss being naive. That is what I'm saying. I miss being innocent. Story 24. Even though I have accepted aging is a part of growing older and would not want to be 25 again, I miss my 25-year-old body. Story 25. Not being aware of my own mortality changed when I was 20 and got sick with a life-threatening chronic illness. I also miss how easy relationships were when I was young. Story 26. My parents' health is the only thing I wish was the same since my young adult years. I am much happier and healthier now, but watching my parents age is very difficult. Story 27. I missed the adventures. Everything was an adventure and unknown, but I could take huge risks because I had nothing to lose. Hitchhiking in the Pacific Northwest to see a girl. Sleeping on the beach in a driftwood shelter. Buying a one-way ticket to foreign countries and only knowing where I would stay that night. Taking the chicken bus across Guatemala. Spending New Year's in a remote village. Stealing a sailboat to tour the Golden Gate Bridge and Alcatraz at 2 a.m. Traveling the country to fight fires and going to bars to meet girls in every small town across the West. Rarely were we successful, but it was sure fun. These days, it feels like everything I do and everywhere I go is known. I've either been there before or there are countless reviews online and it's crowded. Story 28. Getting locked up, crying from laughter. My friend's time was a sequence of hilarity and improvisation, inventing ridiculous new words that became inside jokes. That doesn't happen as much anymore. Story 29. Being healthy and able to run is important to me. Nearly 15 years ago, I suffered a brain aneurysm and came close to death. It's a long story, but I should have died. After brain surgery and a brief drug-induced coma, I was partially paralyzed. Even after almost 15 years, I still have a limp. I've gotten used to it, but I truly miss feeling normal. To be honest, I am tired of being trapped in this broken body. However, it is my burden to bear. Story 30. Limitless potential lies ahead. Many years are laid out before you. You can do anything, go anywhere, and be whoever you desire. However, as you grow older, the likelihood of this diminishes. Story 31. Imagination and naivety led to outrageous confidence. I felt like anything could happen, and I would glide through it. Sometimes I feel like my 15-year-old self would be disappointed in who I am today. I want to tell that 15-year-old self that she doesn't know anything about anything. Story 32. Nothing is better than trying to enjoy the present. Just remember you are always young. Make the most of today. Story 33. I didn't appreciate it back then, but I miss my youth. There were no health problems, no dying family members, and everything was in front of me instead of behind. I had endless potential opportunities. Story 34. I miss taking care of myself. Now my wife and I are responsible for our children, our friends' children. Both of our friends have passed away. My father, her father, and volunteering for 3 soccer leagues, the parent-teacher organization, and Girl Scouts. It's just endless. We got to watch a television show together this afternoon for the first time in 12 years. Actually, she is asleep. I miss having no plans or schedule, being able to do whatever I felt like when I wanted to. I miss that. Story 35. Happiness is the intangible joy that comes from having freedom and a new world to explore. Now, at 43, I find myself struggling financially while caring for my 3 autistic teenage children in a world that seems increasingly hostile toward them. I wish I could feel as happy as I once did, but those days are long gone. Story 36. I wasted so many years deep in alcohol when I should have been living my life to the fullest, pain-free. Now I'm sober with a broken body, but I am grateful for my sobriety. Story 37. Reddit moderators who did not remove your post for simply doing good and having a lot of community interaction. Story 38. I used to fall and get right back up. Now I fall and break a rib. I am a guy in my mid-20s who skateboards too much for my own good. Story 39. Eating as much as I wanted without gaining weight, my attractive figure, my long hair, absence of wrinkles, high energy, and excitement about my future. Story 40. Being able to enjoy ice cream and most dairy products without discomfort is truly delightful. Story 41. My sense of optimism and limitless possibilities inspires me. I never doubted that I could achieve anything I wanted and never let anything stand in my way. Story 42. Not having to check my bank account before making plans felt liberating. Back then, $20 felt like a fortune because I didn't have bills to worry about. I would spend it all on candy and inexpensive makeup at the store without a second thought. Story 43. The feeling that everything was new and that anything was possible. Believing that we could dream bigger. Story 44. Having the freedom to decide what I want to do with my life is valuable. Starting over in a new career or moving to a new city is much easier when you are 25 and single than when you are 40 and have a family to support. Story 45. The music, especially when live in a bar, has a special place in my heart. I grew up in the 1980s and turned 21 in the early 1990s. I appreciate Dungeons and Dragons figures made of metal, rather than plastic, with exceptions for recent 3D printed customs. Story 46. No social media. Life seemed much simpler back then. There was no such thing as selfies or influencers. I enjoyed watching the music channel and waiting for my favorite music videos to come on. Story 47. Healing from a minor injury takes a minor amount of time. In my 20s, I could fall off a roof and hit the pub later that evening. Now in my 50s, a simple joint strain can take weeks to heal. Story 48. When all my senses were heightened. After 11.5 years of smoking cigarettes, my nose is less receptive to the sweet scents of the earth. I can still taste, but now it's more of a gauge between salty, sweet, sour, and spicy. My vision is poor, and I know I'm going blind in my right eye, which I have had trouble with since childhood. I'm not sure if it's my hearing or attention difficulties, but I often find myself asking, "What did you say?" Story 49. Well, I'm only in my late 20s, but I enjoy getting out of school and spending time with friends or playing our favorite video games. Story 50. Many things felt new. As much as I love my life now, I still experience that same feeling every now and then, like discovering a new travel destination. However, it will never be the way it used to be when there was so much I still had not seen or done. And I'm only 34. Additionally, friendships were much easier to form when I was younger. Story 51. Nothing other than my children being small. I still enjoy all the same things and have brought everything with me, which keeps me happy most days. Story 52. I wear any type of fashion I want. I enjoy trying all kinds of styles, but I feel it looks ridiculous on me now at 53 years old. That's all I miss, my energy level. Story 53. To stay up late on a Friday night doing whatever, watching whatever, and snacking whenever. Completely oblivious to bills, problems, the economy, and dinner preparations. Nothing to do except anything I want. I think about it often. Story 54. The ability to eat and drink whatever I wanted without gaining weight. These days, I gain weight if I even look at a donut. Story 55. Being able to manipulate my body in unusual ways without fearing that I will worsen an existing injury is important. It feels like a minor thing to want to jump off something and land sideways on one foot before taking off into a full sprint, but it feels like losing a part of my personality. Story 56. I miss my friends and my childhood best friend. I've tried to stay in contact with her, but she either doesn't respond, is always busy, or doesn't have FaceTime, so we can't video chat. I have traveled over 8 hours one way to see her graduation and stayed with people who were almost strangers, friends of hers but not mine, just to be there on her big day. I have driven hours to see her and hang out when she lived far away. I'm not saying she isn't busy or doesn't have FaceTime. There are alternatives like Zoom, or we could just do a phone call. What I'm saying is she could find a way. Story 57. Free time is a rarity for me these days. I'm lucky if I get an hour or two to myself. Between work, family commitments, chores, errands, and social activities, I hardly have any time to just relax. Story 58. I miss the weekends when I could go downstairs from my bedroom and find my grandfather in the living room with a book on the coffee table, waiting for me to join him. He would always read to me. We once finished several books in just a few hours, reading nearly every weekend. If I wasn't with my friends, I was with him, listening to him read. Story 59. Feeling like you have all the opportunities in the world and can choose a path, work hard, and reach it. However, this turned out to be untrue. Story 60. Memory. I don't remember my childhood years from ages 0 to 10 or 11. I have no recollection of what those years were like. People didn't take many pictures either, so I can't even reconstruct those years. Story 61. Friendship was simpler. I am still relatively young, but it is already hard to keep up with some people or to want to do so. Story 62. I could go to school and meet my friends, then have free time to do whatever I wanted. I didn't feel any pressure about finding a job. It felt like I could just live in the moment and daydream about anything. Story 63. The little bubble I used to live in, I guess. But hey, I mostly started living when I was around 21. Life before that was challenging. Story 64. Not knowing or even understanding the context of stress and worry consumes my life now. Story 65. I miss being present and in the moment. I long for the days without constant access to vast amounts of information and connection to everyone. Story 66. I remember weeks of planning on how to ask a cute girl out in class. Then it would be the day to go for it, and you set the plan in motion. Then something would happen, and I'd have to abort, like when she turned left out of the room instead of right, and you needed to go right. It seems silly now looking back. Ironically, I met my wife through a cold contact as well. Story 67. Good eyesight, a lot of hair, and a small waistline. I remember as a younger man getting on my bicycle and riding for most of the day, covering 50 to 60 miles, and then going out the next day to do the same thing. Now, 20 miles requires a day or two of recovery. Story 68. Well, I'm currently in bed because my body is very sore from swinging a baseball bat for an hour yesterday. And my head hurts because I drank 2 India Pale Alesh last night. I miss quick recovery. Story 69. My health has changed over the years. I was once a long-distance runner and very active. It felt great to exercise and my recovery was quick. Now, at 60, I feel like I am just fighting against the decline every day, and it is a struggle. Story 70. Not having to worry about housing or my financial situation was a relief. It was just school and then playing football with my friends and enjoying Modern Warfare 2 all day. Those were good times. Story 71. The freedom and optimism of the 1990s in my 20s felt like everything was possible and the economy was booming. Could not be more different in today's United States, but I still have hope that if we navigate through this while maintaining our American freedom, we will begin to share that same optimism again. Understanding the Pledge of Allegiance, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution is very important to internalize at this time. Story 72. The state of technology, especially the internet, has changed significantly over the years. Social media did not dominate people's lives as it does today. People actually own their possessions. There was no need to pay to avoid advertisements in your email. Computers and laptops had disk drives and were more durable, not so thin that they could break easily. Story 73. The random trips we took were memorable. Some evenings after dinner, my mom would announce that she wanted to go somewhere, so we would all put on our coats and head into the countryside or, at times, just go shopping. It was always fun, and I miss those moments. Story 74. School breaks. The scheduled time off was wonderful. Now, as an adult, you don't have the paid time off to take random weeks off or enjoy 3 months in the summer. Story 75. The time I have left. In some ways, I'm only 55. I still have a good 25 years or so left based on family history. That's a fair amount. But there was a time as a functioning adult, husband, and father when I had twice that time. 50 years left seems almost exponentially longer than 25. Someone once put it in terms of events. I have only 25 summers left and 25 more opportunities to tell my kids happy birthday. I feel overwhelmed. I could barely manage to watch Law and Order Special Victims Unit once a week and finish it. Story 76. My parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and family friends would often visit on weekends. Sometimes it was unexpected, and I never knew when we would have company. They all had children, so I had many cousins and friends to play Nintendo 64 with while the adults watched TV and enjoyed coffee and sweet bread. Holidays were even better, with 20 cousins gathered in one room, playing Nintendo and having fun. We would crash in the living room around 3 a.m., resting on our mom's laps. Story 77. Ignorance is bliss. The bliss dissolves slowly over time until you have the knowledge to understand better. I was naive. I also miss not having random achy areas on my body. Story 78. Being athletic, I'm still in decent shape, but I used to be able to jump up and grab a rim from a flat-footed stance at 5 feet 8 inches. I couldn't do it to save my life now. Athleticism in my late 40s is not the same as in my early 20s. Story 79. The optimistic feeling of what the future could be. Now I look at the future and think that the end isn't far. Story 80. Optimism. The way my life is going, it is hard to stay optimistic about anything in the future at the moment. But this is just my opinion. Story 81. When we were young, intimacy occurred frequently. Now, with children and a home to manage, along with jobs and responsibilities, intimacy happens less often. Story 82. Yes, every generation has its share of individuals lacking understanding, but I don't think any generation of young people is as lost and disconnected as this one. This is not at all like what it was when I was growing up. There was some level of respect for authority figures and a general balance in life. The new generation seems to have affected many aspects of society. From superficial trend followers to disrupting everything for attention, both the young people and their guardians need to reflect on their actions. Story 83. Ever watch your children running to get somewhere because they are excited, but whatever they are running to is just not that great? I miss that excitement over seemingly trivial things. Story 84. Having seasonal breaks, like in school, is wonderful. A whole summer off with no worries allows me to sleep in and stay in pajamas all day without feeling guilty. I miss having a better relationship with my mom. We were much closer when I was younger because I was more naive. Story 85. A blissfully ignorant state of happiness. I remember being younger and hearing about the concept of depression, and genuinely not understanding it or why people couldn't just be happy. Life happens. Story 86. Happy lives without any worries. Perhaps it is a delusion that there are no worries. I may simply forget them. Story 87. The one thing I miss about being younger is having days when I was pain-free, despite the beatings. Story 88. Endless summers were mostly driven by boredom, as there was little internet access before 1996 or 1997. Television offered nothing but reruns during the summer and throughout the daytime. This lack of entertainment encouraged outdoor activities like riding bikes, going to the store, exploring nearby forests, and playing games with friends. There were no part-time jobs, just a 3-month fantasy every summer. Parents simply instructed us to come home at dinner time, allowing us to be completely free from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Story 89. My friends, time spent together diminished after they got married and had children. Now they are older, the kids have grown, and I attend more funerals than I ever could have imagined. Life goes by so quickly. I wish I had appreciated my younger years more. Story 90. I participated in various sports, including swimming, basketball, cricket, athletics, soccer, softball, and equestrian activities. When I was 12, I played basketball, soccer, softball, and horse riding, but eventually focused on soccer and horse riding. Story 91. I miss my mom. If your mom is still here with you, hold on extra tight next time. You don't realize until she's gone how much she matters. It's been almost 22 years, and yet I still miss her every single day. Story 92. I miss the feeling that life lasts forever. As children and teenagers, we felt invincible in our minds. As an adult, that nagging fear of death is always present, and life feels so short as we grow older. Story 93. Thinking back to my college days, I remember being able to walk to most places. Recreation, work, and classes were all within walking distance. I only drove once a week for groceries, a special date, or to see a few friends who lived further off campus. I experienced both great and mediocre garage bands while living with a punk band for a few years. Wandering to local bars to hear live music from their circles was enjoyable. In some ways, I miss having a really tight friend group. I do not feel the same need for that now, but I do miss those days. In college, my study group was the core of my social circle, as I double majored in physics and astronomy. Speaking of physics, I enjoyed concentrating on a few problems for several days at a time. We generally had weekly homework assignments for our courses, and there were a few challenging problems that could take days to solve. Sometimes I would memorize a problem and think about it while walking around. What is significantly better now is having a partner who is more important to me than my career or any friends. I dated throughout college, even seriously at times, but my planned career and friends generally came first. It wasn't until I met my now wife late in college that I found someone who mattered more than anything else. Story 94. It becomes easier to make friends as you get older. However, it is hard to form friendships because adults tend to view relationships in terms of how they can help them achieve their goals or the lifestyle they want to live. It often becomes a matter of what others can do for them rather than befriending someone for who they are as a person. Story 95. I was checking my blind spot when I sneezed, and I had a fleeting thought that I was going to die. I was certain this was the end. Story 96. I feel good in my body. I have gained weight and let myself go, which makes me feel awful. Story 97. I miss my ability to deal with the heat and humidity. I never had or used air conditioning until I was in my mid-40s. Now, the heat and humidity can paralyze me. I don't like this. Story 98. Having more social connections is important. As we reach adulthood, our perspectives and goals change. When I was younger, I was more eager to socialize. I still enjoy socializing today, but I focus on what interests me. Story 99. I don't miss my younger years because my personal life was extremely traumatic, but I did enjoy the music. Story 100. I miss all of my good friends. I used to be able to call them at 8 or 9 a.m. on a Saturday, and we would walk to Dunkin' Donuts. Story 101. I previously answered this question, but I'll reiterate it here because it's true. Friends from childhood and adolescence have a unique value. Yes, adults have friends, but the experience is quite different. Now, you have to find time to see each other. If you don't live within an hour of one another, it requires significant planning to arrange a meeting. In the past, your responsibilities were limited to homework and minor household chores. You could simply knock on your neighbor's door to see if they wanted to play a game or shoot some hoops. Whether it was building with Legos or playing video games, you would see your friends every day at school, share lunch, and participate in sports together. Adult friendships are simply different. Story 102. Being able to enjoy something without being overwhelmed by thoughts of things I need to do is important. I miss the way my body used to move without getting tired and the range of motion I once had. Now I find myself feeling a bit down. Story 103. Being able to eat and drink anything I want for a week, spend 30 minutes in the gym, and emerge looking like an athlete. Story 104. Being pain-free most of the time is uncommon for me. I'm in my 50s, and it is rare for a day to pass without some part of my body hurting. Story 105. I just missed them. My younger years were a time in my life when I felt depressed and overwhelmed by the notion that I was judged as not good enough. I had not yet confronted my abuse and trauma, and thus they controlled me. I did not engage with my peers and kept myself isolated. Now, as I work on addressing my abuse and trauma, I have a lot of regret for my lost adolescence. Story 106. I worked hard in my early 20s to buy my own house. I felt that prices would rise and wanted my own place as soon as possible. Now at 28, I have everything, but I miss my 20s. Oh well, 30s, here I come. Story 107. Strength. I am still quite strong, stronger than most people, but working out between the ages of 18 and 25 was truly different. Story 108. A body that functions without pain, no social media, having family members who have passed on, being able to afford things, and going to the video store to pick one or two movies instead of scrolling for hours and not even selecting one because I've wasted too much time. The list is endless. Story 109. I miss being able to float through life without anyone needing anything from me. I'm married now. I have a dog, and we're expecting our first baby in November. Every moment of my day is taken up by someone who isn't me, and I dislike that greatly. Story 110. PlayStation 5 games are very expensive, and there is a rumor that Grand Theft Auto 6 might cost at least $100. I spent my middle school years playing handheld consoles, Sega cassette games, and PC games like Age of Empires, Rome, Total War, Commandos, and Close Combat. The future of gaming is concerning with skyrocketing game prices. Story 111. Being innocent is almost like seeing life through warm, fun sunglasses. The older you get, the more colors disappear. Story 112. Togetherness allowed us to spend time with each other. Now, friends are busy, and we must make time for one another, just like with family. It's the price of being an adult, a part of life. Make time for the people you care about. Story 113. My younger years were filled with depression, anxiety, and self-loathing, so very little is missed. I do miss riding horses without pain, though. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.